And may my travels be peaceful or lucrative. Oh, you kinda spotted me praying there. Smabb, why'd you turn on the camera? Well, you find me here in the ruins of what I believe was once a religious temple or castle. I know there are a little dungeon below us, so we'll start today's adventure there. And hopefully we'll manage to hit up the Imperial City for some good old-fashioned Yorkshire tea gold. The only tea for adventurers that love to read books. Alright, let's get to it. Also, don't mind the dead body. I swear it was dead before I got here. Fort Empire, we were in a fort. Thought it looked similar. Now, back to the snaking. Are we dealing with bandits, undead, fey beings? I guess we'll find out. Fey being number one. Now, the thing about fey beings is they rely heavily on magic spells. So, you want to kill them before they see you. That can generally be said about anything that wants to kill you on sight. Imps can be very dangerous creatures. Let me tell you. I don't actually have a lot of imp stories. I don't think I have any real good imp stories. Because they all die before they actually get me. Looks like the imps killed a rat. We better see what's on the other side before we go down the stairs. It's all clear. Smells a little dank in here. We must be lower. If I remember this right, this could be the barracks, or maybe we'll get lucky and find a place to eat some food. Though I doubt. There we go. We've alerted something. Where are you? You dirty bastard. Show yourself. There you are. Filthy imps. Alright, forward we go. Mace of Embers, huh? I'm definitely making money on my trip to the capital. Now, little trick with these things is the spells they shoot always fly straight. So, if you can dodge them, all the better for it. I do believe we're alone here. Opening the door. I guess we cleared it out. What? I thought you were dead. The imps must have brought it back to life. That's a secret right there. They can bring the smaller creatures back. Now, it would appear we made a circle, so we've cleared this place out. No treasures left behind. Now, when it comes to dwelling among tombs, dungeons, even jails, you always want to be prepped. So, I suggest you try and major in sneaking, learn that. Make sure you learn a ranged weapon, be it a crossbow or a bow. Or hell, even dagger throwing. They'll all work. But always make sure you have some form of magic. I myself, as you know, prefer the destructive force of the healing touch. Or draining touch, rather. Hurts them, heals me. Though not everyone can learn that spell. Looks like we've got some more ruins up front. Not the normal ruins I'm used to. Though, can't hurt that much to touch the magic. Not often you see magic in its most raw form. Ooh, that felt good. And that felt real good. Wonder what it did. Looks like we're not that far from the capital bridge. That's fine. Let's put away the bow. Though this road's dangerous, I'm hoping we won't need it. Call me a fool, but I call myself an optimist. Maybe we'll visit your road someday. I'm only spending time around this area for a limited time. Let's explore that ruin, shall we? Where's the door? Oh, we got puppers. Come on, stay still, you daft bastard. There we go. Wolf pill. I know people in Skyrim will shell a pretty penny for that. Door's already open. That means we could be dealing with bandits. Ugh. Come on. There we go. We'll definitely have enough money for the Imperial Inn. I've heard that place is beautiful. Come on. Only got so many picks. Come on. Fine, I'll try this one. Nothing's behaving. You know what? Fine. I'll come back for you someday before I leave. It's a shame what you're wearing's too heavy.
Hello? Who's there?
It's called death.
Now you will know both.
Alright, I've alerted them and they know I'm here. Not the smartest move I could have made. But they've lost me trail. You really don't know your magic well, do you? These people, they're clearly amateurs. Not really worth my time. Nice upgrade to the bow with steel arrows. Should stockpile them for a bit, I ain't got many. Things are getting a little too heavy here. Alright. I do believe we've cleared the area. Smabb, what's that?
Sorry, magical timer.
Could you tell your magical timer to no longer time?
I'm sorry, I gotta know how much magic I got left. This is rather magic intensive.
Alright, fine. How much you got?
Roughly 30, maybe 40 to 50 minutes for today.
Well, then we better hurry up to the capital. So, let us let nothing else distract us as we go to the capital. I swear, you guys and your wolves and your bandits, I don't know which is worse. I know that one's obvious, the bandits. But we appear to be getting closer to the bridge. There's the bridge there. Walnut Inn, huh? I guess we could sleep out here before blowing all our money on the inn. So let's stay at the inn here.
So, what brings you here today?
Book hunting, actually, and a little tour of the Imperial City. How are you today?
Welcome to the Walnut Inn. Could I interest you in a room or perhaps a bit of wine?
I'll definitely take the bed.
There's a fresh bed available to anyone who's got the 10 gold. Would you like it?
I swear everyone here in your country really overcharges for their beds. I haven't seen any amazing bed yet.
So be it. Head upstairs and look for the last door on your right. That's your room for tonight. Sleep well.
Thank you. Before that, have you heard any rumors?
I don't even know what a will-o'-the-wisp is, much less how to kill one. I think they're just swamp gas myself.
Will-o'-the-wisps, they're not swamp gas, milady. They are indeed very vile creatures, and are best dispatched by magic. Have a good day, ma'am, and remember, keep that in mind.
Have a fine journey and keep yourself safe.
I will. Ah, hello, soldier.
Something to report?
Oh no, I'm just wondering if you've had any rumors going about.
The Emperor is dead, and so are his heirs. We're a legion without a leader. The Blades were trusted with our Lord's protection, and they failed.
The Blades? I haven't heard of them.
Carry on.
I'll have to find a book on them. Have a good night.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Come here. I got what you need.
You got books? 'Cause I need books.
You need something special? Check out my wares. You won't find this stuff at your local general store, that's for damn sure.
Are they forbidden books?
Only quality goods for sale here. What can I interest you in?
I'm sorry, but I don't need any of that. But what do you have for rumors?
The Fighters Guild is recruiting again. Not a bad way to make some money, if you've got the stones for it.
I'm not here
Walk
for the
always
guild.
in the shadow of Sithis.
Shadow of... I don't like you. Well, at least this time it's an actual bed. So, is there a chair anywhere? No chair? Alright. Well, I guess we'll start with the books and then I'll go to bed for the night. We've already gone through the biography of Baron Zaya. Now, we're gonna read through The real Baron Zaya. All 5 volumes. You ready for this, Smabb?
Give me a second. I need some water.
You always need water before book time.
Yeah, well, shut up.
You hear that, folks? He needs his water.
I told you last time, it's not alcohol. It's simply water.
I don't believe you. You mages get drunk all the time.
Hey. I'm not that kind of mage. I ain't no frat mage. You want to continue? You want me to read these books or not?
Sorry, I just know a lot of mages that frat.
Yeah, well, this is Cyrodiil. We're more civilized here. We ain't no Nord.
Are you racist?
No, I'm... Never mind. Let's get to the book.
Oi!
My throat. The Real Baron Zaya, Part 1. Ooh, excuse me. Written by Anonymous. 500 years ago in Mournhold, City of Gems, there lived a blind widow and her only child, a tall, strapping young man. He was a miner, as his father had been before him, a common laborer in the mines for the Lord of Mournhold. For his ability in magica was small, the work was honorable, but paid poorly. His mother made and sold cranberry cakes at the city market to help eke out their living. They did well enough, she said. They had enough to fill their bellies. No one could wear more than 1 suit of clothing at a time, and the roof leaked only when it rained. But Samachus would have liked more. He hoped for a lucky strike at the mines, which would garner him a large bonus. In his free hours he enjoyed hoisting a mug of ale in the tavern with his friends, and gambling with them at cards. He also drew the eyes and sighs of more than one pretty elven lass, although none held his interest for long. He was a typical young dark elf of peasant descent, remarkable only for his size. It was rumored that he had a bit of Nordic blood in him. In Samachus' 13th year, there was great rejoice in Mournhold, as a girl child had been born to the lord and lady. A queen, the people sang. A queen is born to us. For amongst the people of Mournhold the birth of an heiress is a sure sign of future peace and prosperity. When the time came round for the royal child's rite of naming, the mines were closed, and Samachus dashed home to bathe and dress his best. "I'll rush straight home and tell you all about it," he promised his mother, who would not be able to attend. She had been ailing, and besides, there would be a great crush of people, as all Mournhold turned out to be part of the blessed event, and being blind, she would be unable to see anything anyway. "My son," she said, "afore you go, fetch me a priest or a healer, else I may pass from the mortal plane ere you return." Samachus crossed to her pallet at once, and noted anxiety that her forehead was very hot and her breathing shallow. He pried loose a slat from the wooden floor under which their small board of savings was kept. There wasn't nearly enough to pay a priest for healing. He would have to give what they had and owe the rest. Samachus snatched up his cloak and hurried away. The streets were full of folk hurrying to the sacred grove, but the temples were locked and barred. "Closed for the ceremony," read all signs. Samachus elbowed his way through the mob and managed to overtake a brown-robed priest. "After the rite, brother," the priest said. "If you have gold, I shall gladly attend to your mother. My lord has bidden all clerics attend, and I for one have no wish to offend him. My mother is desperately ill, Samachus pled. Surely my lord will not miss one lowly priest. True, but the Acheron will, the priest said, nervously tearing his robe loose from Samachus' desperate grip and vanishing into the crowd. Samachus tried other priests, and even a few mages, but with no better result. Armored guards marched through the streets and pushed him aside with their lances, and Samachus realized that the royal procession was approaching, as the carriage bearing the city's rulers drew abreast. Samachus rushed out from the crowd and shouted, "My lord! My lord! My mother is dying! I forbid her to do so on this glorious night!" The lord shouted, laughing and scattering coins into the throng. Samachus was close enough to smell the wine on the royal's breath. On the other side of the carriage, his lady clutched the babe to her breast and stared slit-eyed at Samachus. Her nostrils flared in disdain. "Gods!" she cried. "Remove this oaf!" Rough hands seized Samachus as he was beaten and left dazed on the side of the road. Samachus' head ached, followed by the wake of the crowd, and witnessed the rite of naming from atop of a hill. He could see the brown-robed clerics and blue-robed mages gathered near the high-born folk below. Baron Zaya. The name came dimly to Samachus' ears as the high priest lifted the swaddled babe and proffered her to the twin moons on either side of the horizon. Joan rising, Jode setting. Behold the Lady Baron Zaya, born of the land of Mournhold. Grant her thy blessing and thy counsel, ye kind gods, that she may ever rule over Mournhold, its kin and its well, its kith and its ilk. Bless her, bless her! All the people intoned along their lord and lady, hands upraised. Only Samachus stood silent, head bowed, knowing in his heart that his dear mother was gone, and in silence he swore a mighty oath that he would be his lord's bane, and in vengeance for his mother's needless death, the child Baron Zaya he should have for his own bride, and that his mother's grandchildren should be born to rule over Mournhold. After the ceremony, he watched impassively as the royal procession returned to the palace. He saw the priest to whom he'd first spoken. The man came gladly enough now in return for the gold Samachus had, and the promise of more afterward. They found his mother dead. The priest sighed and tucked the pouch of gold coins away. "I'm sorry, brother. It's all right. You can forget the rest of the gold. There's aught I can do here." "Likely give me back my money!" Samachus snarled. "You've done naught to earn it!" He lifted his right arm threateningly. The priest backed away, about to utter a curse, but Samachus struck him across the face before more than 3 words had left his mouth. He went down rather heavily, striking his head sharply on one of the stones that formed the fire pit. He died instantaneously. Samachus snatched up his rightful gold and fled the city. As he ran, he muttered one word over and over like a sorcerer's chant. "Baron Zaya," he said. "Baron Zaya! Baron Zaya!" Baron Zaya stood on one of the balconies of the palace, staring down into the courtyard where soldiers milled. Dazzling in their armor, presently they formed into ordered ranks and cheered as their parents, the lord and lady, emerged from the palace clad from head to toe in ebony armor. Long purple-eyed fur cloaks flowed behind, splendidly caparisoned. Shining black horses were brought for them, and they mounted and rode to the courtyard gates and turned to salute her. "Baron Zaya!" they cried. "Baron Zaya, our beloved, farewell!" The little girl blinked back tears and waved one hand bravely. Her favorite stuffed animal, a gray wolf cub called Woofin, clutched to her breast. With the other, she had never been parted from her parents before, and had no idea what it meant, save that there was war in the west, and the name Tiber Septim was on everyone's lips, spoken in hate and dread. "Baron Zaya!" the soldiers cried, lifting their lances and swords and bows. Then her dear parents turned and rode away, knights trailing in their wake until the courtyard was nearly emptied. Some time after came a day when Baron Zaya was shaken awake by her nurse, dressed hurriedly, and borne from the palace. All she could remember of that dreadful time was seeing a huge shadow with burning eyes filling the sky. She was passed from hand to hand. Foreign soldiers appeared, disappeared, and sometimes reappeared. The nurse vanished and was replaced by strangers, some more strange than others. There were days, or it may have been weeks, of travel. One morning she awoke to step outside of the coach into a cold place with a large gray stone castle amid empty, endless gray-green halls, covered patchily with gray-white snow. She clutched Woofin to her breast in one hand and stood blinking and shivering in the gray dawn, feeling very small and very dark in all this endless space, this endless gray-white space. She and Hannah, a brown-skinned, black-haired maid who had been traveling with her for several days now, went inside the keep. A large gray-white woman with icy gray-golden hair was standing by a hearth in one of the rooms. She stared at Baron Zaya with dreadful, bright blue eyes. "She's very black, isn't she?" the woman remarked to Hannah. "I've never seen a dark elf before." "I don't know much about them myself, m'lady," Hannah said, "but this one's got red hair and a temper to match. I can tell you that. Take care, she bites, and worse." "I'll soon train her out of that," the other woman sniffed. "And what's that filthy thing she's got?" "Ugh!" The woman snatched Woofin away and threw him into the blazing hearth. Baron Zaya shrieked and would have flung herself in after him, but was held back despite her attempts to bite and claw at her captors. Poor Woofin was reduced to a tiny heap of charred ash. Baron Zaya grew like a weed transplanted to a Skyrim garden, a ward of Count Sven and his wife and Lady Inga. Outwardly, that this she thrived, but always there was a cold and empty place within. "I've raised her as my own daughter," Lady Inga was wont to sigh as she sat gossiping when neighbor ladies came to visit. "But she's a dark elf. What can you expect?" Baron Zaya was not meant to overhear these words. At least she thought she was not. Her hearing was keener than that of her Nordic hosts. Other, less desirable dark elf traits evidently including pilfering, lying, and a little misplaced magic. Just a small fire spell here, and a little levitation spell there, and as she grew older, a keen interest in boys and men, who could provide very pleasant sensations, and to her astonishment, gifts as well. Inga disapproved of this last one for reasonable incompetence to Baron Zaya, for she was careful to keep it as secret as possible. "She's wonderful with the children," Inga added, referring to her 5 sons, all younger than Baron Zaya. "I don't think she'd ever let them come to harm. A tutor had been hired when Johnny was 6 and Baron Zaya 8, and they took their lessons together. She would have liked to train in arms as well, but the very idea scandalized Count Sven and Lady Inga, so Baronzai was given a small bow and allowed to play at target shooting with the boys. She watched them at arms practice when she could, sparred with them when no grown-up folk were around, and knew she was as good or better than they. She's very proud, though, isn't she? One of the ladies would whisper to Inga, and Baronzaya pretended not to hear. She would nod silently in agreement, for she could not help but feel superior to the Count and his lady. There was something about them that provoked contentment. Afterwards, she came to learn that Sven and Inga were distant cousins of Darkmoor Keep's last titled residents, and she finally understood. They were posers, impostors, not rulers at all. At least they were not raised to rule. This thought made her strangely furious at them. A good, clean hatred quite detached from resentment. She came to see them as disgusting and repellent insects who could be despised, but never feared. One month a courier came from the Emperor, bringing a small bag of gold to Sven and Inga, and a large bag of dried mushrooms from Morrowind for Baronzaya, her favorite treat. On these occasions she was always made to look presentable, or at least as presentable as a skinny dark elf could be made to look in Inga's eyes, before being summoned into the courier's presence for a brief interview. The same courier seldom came twice, but all of them looked her over in much the same way a farmer would look over a hog he was readying for market. In the spring of her 16th year, Baronzaya thought the courier looked as if she were at last ready for market. Upon reflection, she decided she did not wish to be marketed. The stable boy Straw had a big, muscular, strong lad, though clumsy and gentle, affectionate and rather simple, had been urging her to run off for some weeks now. Baronzaya stole a bag of gold the courier had left, took the mushrooms from the storeroom, disguised herself as a boy in one of Johnny's old tunics and a pair of cast-off breeches. And on one fine spring night, she and Straw took the two best horses from the stable and rode hard through the night toward Whiterun, the nearest city of any importance, and the place where Straw wanted to be. But Mournhold and Morrowind also lay eastward, and they drew Baronzaya as a lodestone draws iron. In the morning they abandoned the horses at Baronzaya's insistence. She knew they would be missed and tracked down, and she hoped to throw off any pursuers. They continued on foot until late afternoon, keeping to side roads, and slept for several hours in an abandoned hut. They went on at dusk and came to Whiterun's city gates. Just before dawn, Baronzaya had prepared a pass of sorts for Straw, a makeshift document stating an errand to a temple in the city for a local village lord. She herself glided over the wall with the help of a levitation spell. She had reasoned correctly, as it turned out, that by now the gate guards would have been alerted to keep an eye out for a young dark elven girl and a Nordic boy traveling together. On the other hand, unaccompanied country yokels like Straw were a common sight enough. Alone and with papers, it was unlikely that he would draw their attention. Her simple plan went rather smoothly. She met Straw at the temple, which was not far from the gate. She had been to Whiterun on a few previous occasions. Straw, however, had never been more than a few miles from Sven's estate, which was his birthplace. Together they had made their way to the run-down inn in the poorer quarters of Whiterun. Gloved, cloaked, and hooded against the morning chill, Baronzaya's dark skin and red eyes were not apparent, and no one paid any heed to them. They entered the inn separately. Straw paid the innkeeper for a single cubicle, an immense meal, and 2 jugs of ale. Baronzaya sneaked in a few minutes later. They ate and drank together gleefully, rejoicing in their escape, and they made love vigorously in the narrow cot. Afterward, they fell into an exhausted and dreamless sleep. They stayed for a week at Whiterun. Straw earned a bit of money running errands in Baronzaya, burgled a few houses at night. She continued to dress as a boy. She cut her hair short and dyed her flame-red tresses jet black to further the disguise, and kept out of sight as much as possible. There were a few dark elves in Whiterun. One day, Straw got them work as temporary guards for a merchant caravan traveling east. The one-armed sergeant looked her over dubiously. Heh, he chuckled. Dark elf, ain't ya? Like setting a wolf to guard the sheep, that is. Still, I need of arms, and we ain't going near not Morrowind, so's ye can betray us to your folk. Our homegrown bandits should as fain cut your throat as mine. The guard turned to give Straw an apparent look. Then he spun back abruptly toward Baranziah, whipping out a short sword. But she had her dagger out in the twinkling of an eye and was in a defensive stance. Straw drew his own knife and circled around the man's rear. The sergeant dropped his blade and chuckled again. Not bad, kids, not bad. How are you with yon bow, dark elf? Baranziah demonstrated her prowess briefly. Aye, not bad, not bad. Tall, and you'll be keen an eye by night. Boy of errant tall time, boy of hearing tall times. A trusty dark elf makes as good a fighting man as any could ask, for I know I served under so much as hisself afore I lost this arm and got invalid out of the Emperor's army. We could betray them. I know folk who'd pay well, Straw said later as they bedded down for their last night at the ramshackle lodge. Or rob them ourselves. They're very rich, and those merchants are berry. Baranziah laughed. Whatever. Whatever would we do with so much money? And besides, we need their protection for traveling, quite as much as they need ours. We could buy a little farm, you and me, Barry, and settle down, all nice-like. Peasant, Baranziah thought scornfully. Straw was a peasant, and harbored nothing but peasant dreams. But all she said was, Not here, Straw. We're too close to Darkmoor still. We'll have other chances farther east. The caravan went only as far east as Sungard. The Emperor Tiber Septim I had done much in the way of building relative safety and regularly patrolled highways, but the tolls were rather steep, and this particular caravan kept to the side roads as much as possible to avoid them. This exposed them to the hazards of wayside robbers, both human and orcish, and roving brigand bands of various races, but such were the perils of trade and profit. They had 2 such encounters before reaching Sungard. An ambush which Baranziah's keen ears warned them of in plenty time for them to circle about and surprise the lurkers, and a night attack by a mixed band of Khajiit, humans, and wood elves. The latter were a skilled band, and even Baranziah did not hear them sneaking up in time to give much warning. This time the fighting was fierce. The attackers were driven off, but the 2 caravans' other guards were slain, and Straw got a nasty cut on his thigh before he and Baranziah managed to gash his assailant's throat. Baranziah rather enjoyed the life. The garrulous sergeant had taken a liking to her, and she spent most of her evenings sitting around the campfire listening to his tales of campaigning in Morrowind with Tiber Septim and General Symmachus. This Symmachus had made general after Mournhold's fall. The general said, "He's a fine soldier, boy, Symmachus is. There was more'n soldiery involved in that Morrowind business, if you take my meaning. But, well, you know about that, I suspect." No, I don't remember," Baranziah said, trying to sound nonchalant. "I've lived most of my life in Skyrim, and my mother married a Skyrim man. They're both dead, though. Tell me, what happened to the Lord and Lady of Mournhold?" The sergeant shrugged. "I ain't never heard. Dead, I 'spect."
'Twas a lot of fighting before the armistice got signed. It's pretty quiet now, maybe too quiet. I like a calm before the storm. Say, boy, where you going back there?
Maybe, Baranzai said. The truth was that she was drawn irresistibly to Morrowind and Mournhold. Like a moth to a burning house, Straw sensed it and was unhappy about it. He was unhappy anyway, since they could not bed together, as she was supposed to be a boy. Baranzaya rather missed it too, but not as much as Straw did, quite seemingly. The sergeant wanted them to sign on for the return trip, but gave them a bonus nonetheless when they turned the offer down, and as well as parchments of recommendation. Straw wanted to settle down permanently near Sungard, but Baranzaya had insisted on continuing their travels east. "I'm the Queen of Mournhold by rights," she said, unsure of whether it was true, or if it was just a daydream she had made up as a lost, bewildered child. "I want to go home. I need to go home." That, at least, was true. After a few weeks, they managed to get places in another caravan heading east. By early winter, they were at Riften, and nearing the Morrowind border, but the weather had grown severe as the days passed, and they were told no merchant caravans would be setting forth till mid-spring.
I need some more water. Alright, I'm gonna believe you need actual water. That was a long time to go without.
Thanks.
Yeah, we need to order food after we finish this. Because, honestly, I think we're just getting this one book. I agree. We need food, and this book's going on pretty long. Fucking 43 pages.
Yeah. After this is done, we'll have to call it. Get some food. Baranzaya stood on top of the city walls and stared across the deep gorge that separated Riften from the snow-clad mountain wall guarding Morrowind beyond. "Barry," Straw said gently, "Mournhold's a long way off yet. Nearly as far as we've come already, and the lands between are wild, full of wolves, bandits, and orcs, and still worse creatures. We'll have to wait for spring." "That's Silgrod Tower," Barry said, referring to the dark elven township that had grown up around an ancient minaret guarding the border between Skyrim and Morrowind. "The bridge guards won't let me across, Barry. They'll crack Imperial troops. They can't be bribed, and if you go alone. I won't try and stop you, but what will you do? Silgrod Tower is full of Imperial soldiers. Will you become a washing woman for them, or a camp follower?" "No!" Baranzaya said slowly, thoughtfully. Actually, the idea was not entirely unappealing, for she was sure she could earn a modest living by sleeping with the soldiers. She'd had a few adventures of that sort as they crossed Skyrim, when she'd dressed as a woman and slipped away from Straw. She'd only been looking for a bit of variety. Straw was sweet, but dull. She'd been startled, but extremely pleased, when the men she'd picked up offered her money afterwards. Straw had been unhappy about it, though, and would shout for a while, then sulk for days afterward if he caught her at it. He was quite jealous. He'd even threatened to leave her, not that he ever did, or could. But the Imperial Guards were a tough and brutal lot, by all accounts, and Baranzaya had some very ugly stories during their treks. The ugliest of them by far had come from the lips of ex-army veterans around the caravan campfire, and were proudly recounted. They'd been trying to shock her and Straw, and she realized that she had comprehended that There was some truth behind the wild tales. Straw hated that kind of dirty talk, and hated it more that she had to hear it. But there was a part of him that was fascinated nevertheless. Baron Zaya sensed this and had encouraged Straw to seek out other women. But he said he didn't want anyone else but her. She told him candidly she didn't feel that way about him, but she did like him better than anyone else. "Then why do you go after other men?" Straw had asked on one occasion. "I don't know." Straw sighed. "They say dark elf women are like that." Baron Zaya smiled and shrugged. "I don't know. Or, no, maybe I do. Yes, I do know." She turned and kissed him affectionately. "I guess that's all the explanation there is." Holy crap.
That was a load of pages. That was legitimately an entire book. We ain't gonna get through the next 5 volumes today, 'cause I think that was an entire video worth of book.
Wait, how do you know video?
I've heard you talk. Back before we started this whole adventure, talking about videos and games and things. Not that I can to understand you. But I think I'll pick up your lingo soon enough. But that's enough for today. This has been the Book Hunter and Smabb. We're signing off. See ya.
See ya.